just do it with Miami Dolphins.
The pressure, he's in trouble. Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle. It's a Dolphin touchdown.
Throwing deep upfield, now the near side, man open, touchdown!
Looking deep, he's got a man. Touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. He's got it for the touchdown.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan.
Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. And we are back here for another one. I apologize in advance if this stream has issues. I don't know what's going on right now with my Streamlabs and everything, but it's lagging issues and everything's going on. My mic, the audio wasn't working when I first started. I was going to be on time, but the audio wasn't. I was checking my audio like I do every time before I go live, and it wasn't recording. So I had to scramble and figure it out. Hopefully I've solved everything here. I've never had these problems before. Today just decided to wake up and start these problems. So hopefully we're all good. Hopefully this stream moves smoothly because we got a bunch to talk about today. Tyreek out here guaranteeing 2,000 yards in a Super Bowl. I'm about to destroy and obliterate the narrative that Tua can't throw deep. That's getting destroyed today on this show. Maybe the people at work were trying to stop me from doing that. I don't know. We're going to talk about Christian Wilkins because he's out here calling Miami home. Man, we got a bunch to talk about today on this episode. Now, before we do, as usual, there is something I want to talk about. Right now, the word on the street is all about Josh Jacobs right now. And Joe Mixon and Saquon Barkley. What's going to happen? Well, Joe Mixon, he just literally reworked his deal and put himself in a position that it's not going to be very friendly for Dalvin Cook and what he's searching for right now. Joe Mixon did none of these guys any favors. None whatsoever. Right? And you know why? Because Mixon wants to win. So how can you hate on the man for wanting to win? It's what a couple of these guys are going to have to realize. Are you about the bag or are you about winning? Because basically he had a $9.4 million non-guaranteed base salary, and he agreed to restructure his contract to remain in Cincinnati. You know what I mean? He sat back and he realized winning means more. Because what happened was he took a $4.3 million pay cut this year and a $4.67 million pay cut next year. The 2023 base this year is now 5.51 with incentives to get him up to about another $2 million to get him up to about $7.5 million. Joe Mixon has taken almost a $5 million pay cut over the next 2 years in each season. And this year, his incentives can get him up to 7.5. And what's the magic number I've been telling you since all this started with Dalvin Cook? 7 is the magic number. You look at Joe Mixon now sitting back and saying, I'll take $7.5 million if it means we can win. And guess what, folks? All of a sudden, Joe Mixon's ballpark makes a lot more sense for Dalvin Cook. No? You know, I'm at the point, give him the Mixon contract. Give him the Mixon contract. $5.5 million. I've already heard we're at 4. All right, I've already reported to y'all the offer was 4. Get up another $1.5 million and put $2 million of incentives on. Let's go. Or get him up to 7 and give him $2.5 million of incentives. Whatever you got to do. And I think that's a number. Pause. we can all swallow. See, and this is a false narrative. Okay? And this is why I'm going to tell all y'all this. No one's going to stunt A-Chain's growth because of the way they're going to use him. See, you guys, a lot of you keep taking the traditional approach of this. You guys keep looking at this and boxing him in. Do you really think A-Chain's only going to be coming out of the backfield? That man's going to be lining up in the slot. That man in spread sets, that man's can go on the boundary and run drags right across the middle of the field. And see, this is also a little of another narrative to me, too, that's got to get... Let's put it this way. Name a no-name running back or a mid-tier running back that didn't play above his potential and what we all thought his ceiling was on one of those runs. Because people always want to go, oh, these mid-tier running backs did this for their Super Bowl run, or dude. Did anyone think Damian Williams had that Super Bowl performance in him? Has Mostert even come close to replicating the 2019 run he had with the Niners that got him to the Super Bowl? See, this is what I'm saying here. It's all fine and dandy when we look at all these names of not big guys who went to the Super Bowl or either went to the Super Bowl or won the Super Bowl. That's fine. But out of all those names you list, how many of them played out of their mind and above what we had thought was their potential? See, that's where I'm going with that. Because here's my thing. I'm tired of the excuses. Please, someone remind me what Mostert and Jeff Wilson did in December and January last year other than Mostert's performance against the Buffalo Bills in December. Someone please remind me what they did. Christian, what are we talking about here? Jeff Wilson, 10 carries for 26 yards in the playoff game, and Mostert injured, can't even suit up? Stop, man. It's time to bring in a proven commodity. And A-Chain, his growth will not be stunted because of his usage. Because he's so diverse and how he can be lined up, his growth will not be stunted. Either he's going to have a chance to take over the room with Mostert and Wilson sticking around because they're probably going to get hurt at some point, or he's going to take over that number 2 spot. The perfect way to build him is, I've said this, behind Cook. You sign Cook to a 2-year deal. Year 1, go with your committee approach. So Mostert and Wilson can stay healthy into December and January by giving the ball to Cook and A-Chain more. Okay? Year 2, Cook and A-Chain, it's your backfield. Year 3, A-Chain, it's all yours. A year before your final contract year, we are giving you the backfield in year 3. Run with it, kid. It's all you. You want them to learn. You want them to learn under... It's the same way you want... look at Waddle's growth right now under Tyreek Hill. I'm just saying. Hey, Reason, when will we see Tua playing American Century? Hey. Listen. You need to relax. Tua, that man, all right? We don't want him focusing on his golfing game. Let's get some playoff wins before we go back down that, before we go down that. I don't know if he's going to hit a hole-in-one like Steph Curry either. All right? But I think after he gets some playoff wins and the Super Bowl under his belt, let's see him, let's see him out there, eh? Let's see him out there. So, shout out, I like that funny question. You see, and I'm here with you, Garn. I really am. Listen, no one is a bigger Devon A-Chain fan in this fan base than I am. I've been talking about this kid for over a year. I've been talking about Devon A-Chain on this channel and on my podcast with Neil. No one's a bigger Devon A-Chain fan than me. But even I can be objective and realize we don't know what he is yet at the NFL level. Sure, we can wait and see. That's fine and dandy. But right now, the window we're in with the roster we built, we need proven commodities. Are Mostert and Jeff Wilson proven commodities? Sure. But it's also proven you can't depend on them the full year. And I agree with Sean Davis. H ain't going to ball out regardless of Cook being there. And it goes back to the way I say he can be used. He can be used so many different ways. Stop thinking this is just a turnaround, hand the ball off. And Elpad's right. This is Marshall Faulk joining the Rams. When they had Bruce. When they had Holt. When they were ready to go. See, this is what I think we should do. We should find our balance with Cook. All right? You're kind of onto something there. I'm not going to say your name because I know you're trolling Omar. But you're onto something there a little bit. And what I think you're onto is this. Dalvin Cook forces McDaniel to be more aware and conscious of running the football. I think it was a mixture of things last year. I think it was guys were banged up, but I also think, we saw how many 3rd and 1 situations. We just didn't trust our guys to get it done. Dalvin Cook, you trust to get it done. Dalvin Cook in your peripheral vision on the sideline, or when you look out onto the field into the huddle, all of a sudden you say run the ball. Look at it this way. Just think of yourself if you were a coach. Think of yourself as you're a coach. Think of the amount of the difference in confidence you would have with Mostert and Wilson or Dalvin Cook as your number 1 guy. You would have a lot more confidence in your run game and a lot more confidence of going to the run game when they least expect it, going to the run game more often, but also going to the run game when you need it, which is where we saw them stray a little bit away from. And we were all confused, Mike McDaniel, we know how much he loves the run game, et cetera, et cetera. And like I've said, what I've been told privately, McDaniel sees Dalvin Cook as his McCaffrey to Kyle Shanahan last year. All of a sudden, we got to find that balance. It's not about running the ball more or passing the ball more. We got to find that balance. Once we find that balance, it's game on. That's how you're going to get the confused defenders. That's how you're going to get mismatches in the box because they're not going to know whether to overload or whether to make it light because they don't know what's coming at them. When you find that balance, the thing is, let's be honest with ourselves, people. Let's really sit back and be honest with ourselves. Did any defense come anywhere close, not as much, but anywhere even close to respecting our run game as much as they did the pass game? No. Our run game, say what you want. Give me your 4.7 yards per carry, 4.9 yards per carry. I don't care because that run game did not strike fear. It didn't even cause reluctance in defenses, let alone strike fear in the hearts of defenses. If you can at least cause reluctance where they don't know, again, whether do we overload the box, do we keep it light, we don't know, At least if you can create that self-doubt, that reluctance. We couldn't create any of that except for a few games here and there. That's what the balance is. Yeah, we know we're going to have the most feared passing game. But if we can get them to fear that running game a little bit, make them to be reluctant over how they run their defense because of our running game, think twice because of that running game, have a little self-doubt because of that running game coming at them on top of our passing game, That's when we are in business. That's when you start to get into the realm of greatest show on turf, of unstoppable, of defenses don't have answers, of keeping coordinators and defenders up at night. That's when we've already done a little bit of that with the passing game. Imagine if we could find that balance with the running game. If we found that balance, listen, I'm going to tell you this right now. We find that balance with our running game and they bring in Dalvin Cook, this is a 15-win team in the regular season. 14 wins should be like 13, 14 should be the minimum. This is a 15, 16-win team if you can go get Dalvin Cook. I'm telling you that. He's going to make that difference. Especially when you make him Gaskin, Ahmed, nice to know you. There's the bus ticket. There's your seat. Sorry, you got to go. And I would keep Wilson and Mostert. I wouldn't get rid of any of them. I'd cut Crossan before I cut them. Keep the committee. Again, Dalvin Cook can help also keep Mostert and Wilson healthy into the later months. The ripple effect is huge. Yeah, I think we win the division. I think we can win the division even without Dalvin Cook. I really do. I believe that. I've said this before. I think we win this division. I've said I think the Bills regress. Leslie Frazier's going to hurt. I'm telling you. I am convinced Leslie Frazier is going to hurt. And, you know, they can say what they want about Tremaine Edmonds. I think in that locker room and on that field, he was a heart and soul guy. I told all of y'all they wouldn't let both Poyer and Tremaine Edmonds walk. There was no way they would let them both walk because that would be too big of a loss to overcome, and I still believe that. I think we can win our division. But anyways, you know, we've talked about Dalvin Cook so much to almost nauseum. But people need to remember, man, this guy adds another dimension to this team, and we can finally find that balance. And then sustain the balance, right? Then it's all about sustaining that balance. So, man, I'm telling you. Anyways, let's get into this, okay? We're gonna start off with getting in on Craig Carton's take on Tua's deep ball. Then I'm gonna absolutely annihilate him and anyone who wants to say Tua can't throw deep. Then we're gonna talk about Tyreek, etc., etc. All right, so we got a bunch to go over here. Let's start off with this clip. I might get demonetized, so please do me the favor, because it's FS1, and they're terrible with this stuff. Please smash the like button. Please do me the favor. If you can donate, hey, PayPal, Super Chat, Patreon, whatever. There's perks to all ways to donate. Shout out to Rhino Sith for the he had a Super Chat yesterday, I believe it was. So thank you, Rhino. I appreciate you. So please smash that like button. There's well over 200 of you in the room already. So please smash that like button. If you can't donate it, smash it, because your boy probably going to get demonetized. Let's roll the clip.
I see what he does. And to me, I acknowledge he was having an MVP caliber season before, unfortunately, he had all the concussions, which just sucks. Like, I'm a lot of things. I don't root for injury, and I feel terrible for a guy, especially a young guy at the start of his career, who had to deal with that kind of stuff, because it just sucks seeing, you may have your whole future robbed from you. It's not even your fault. But he's not a good, deep ball thrower. He's just not. And anybody that thinks he is, you're just not watching football. He's the best, worst quarterback I've ever seen in the NFL. But I do not think he's a guy that's going to lead a team to a Super Bowl, because at some point, an inability to throw the ball successfully down the field on the money is going to come back and haunt you, because guys like Sauce Gardner and DJ Moore, guys like Stephon Gilmore, Trayvon Diggs, guys like that, great ball hawk cornerbacks, are going to eat you up.
Is this guy for real? I don't even know who this guy is, but then people said that FS1's really backing him and are you for real, bro? This guy has the audacity to say people who think he can throw the ball well deep don't watch ball. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it seems like you don't watch ball, my friend. I'm not even going to have to we don't even have to bring up the film. I've broken down every single snap Tua Tagovailoa was taking in the NFL from 2020 when he came in for relief against the Jets to his last game last year against the Packers. I've broken down every single snap. So if you want to see me break down his deep throws, just search in the game you want to see, Phinside The NFL. I got you. I break down the All-22 every year, Tua Tuesdays. People even try to copy Tua Tuesdays now with just the namesake and such. But, the original often duplicated, never replicated over here, right? So, anyways, let's just destroy this guy. Here we go, man. I mean, to actually say what you said and thought you were going to get away with that is lunacy. Let's start it off because, facts don't care about feelings. And this man is basically saying, not just analysts, but we're talking about analytic guys. He's basically saying the analytic guys don't watch football. And I'm an analytic guy, and I'm also a film guy. He's saying the analytic and the film guys don't watch football. Let's show Carton how big of a freaking idiot is. He should change his name to Greg Cartoon after I'm about to be done with him, all right? Boom. Next gen stats. Here we go. Top 10 deep passes of 2022. All right? Geno Smith, Tua Tagovailoa excel at airing it out. The deep pass is one of the most aesthetically pleasing events in sports. A quarterback drops back while his intended target streaks down the field, awaiting a rainbow toss with the hopes of producing a game-changing play. The appeal of the deep pass is easy to understand. Quantifying the deep pass, however, can become complicated. Have no fear. I'm returning to do just that. And remember, this is an NFL.com next-gen stats article, okay? My annual tradition of ranking the NFL's deep passes continued as I did in 2022. I'll be relying on a handful of metrics, both traditional and advanced, to sort out the best big arm throwers of pro football. The key metrics of this exercise: expected completion percentage and completion percentage above expectation. Might not sound familiar. Here's a quick explainer. Expectation completion percentage, a quarterback's average completion probability, which represents the aggregate level of difficulty of a set of pass attempts. And completion percentage above expectation, the difference between a quarterback's actual completion percentage and expected completion percentage, controlling for the level of difficulty of each pass. These metrics and passing score, a metric that takes into account controllable factors and performance relative to league average expectations, see and explain, you can click there on the link if you'd like, are the basis of his rankings. He was able to use passing score for the first time a year ago, and now we have 2 seasons worth of data at our disposal. We can gain an even better understanding of how well the league's top quarterbacks performed when throwing passes of 20-plus air yards. Using these numbers, let's sort out the best deep passers of 2022 presented in reverse order. So, number 10, Josh Allen, Bills fans. There you go. Enjoy that one. Number 10, Josh Allen. Number 9, Joey B. Number 8, Derek Carr. I bet people didn't expect to see that one. Number 7, Russell Wilson. Number 6, Patty Mahomes. Number 5, Kirk Cousins. Shout out to Quarterback on Netflix. Number 4, Dak Prescott. Number 3, Jalen Hurts. Are you ready for it? Who's ready for it? And number 2, Tua Tagovailoa. 27 of 50 for 891 yards, according to Next Gen Stats. A 10-2 touchdown interception ratio. A 122.1 passer rating. Deep completion percentage was 54%. The deep expected completion percentage was 43.6. So his completion percentage over expected was plus 10.4. He had a 99 passing score on, and this is next gen stats. This is like more in depth than PFF, and we'll go over PFF too, just for the sake of it. But this is like these are the stats that the NFL leans on. Okay. The first half of Tagovailoa's season was sure special. In weeks 1 to 9, he completed 15 of 25 deep attempts for 480 yards, a 5-2 touchdown to interception ratio, a 110.4 passer rating, a 97 passer score, and a completion percentage over expected of plus 14.7. His EPA per deep pass brought back was an eye-popping plus 1.27. That's ridiculous. This is where you're expecting me to tell you everything fell apart, given the additional time Tagovailoa missed with concussion issues and Miami's reduced output over a three-win, 5-loss stretch to finish the season. But the QB's numbers don't quite fit that narrative. It turns out his performance didn't vary significantly when comparing the two halves of 2022. The biggest difference in his deep passing stats the rest of the way ended up being in completion percentage over expected, in which Tagovailoa dropped by more than 8 percentage points. Otherwise, he posted a perfect 5-0 touchdown interception ratio from week 10 on. In other words, he was good, really good, at throwing deep throughout the season, finishing as the only qualifying quarterback in the entire NFL with a deep passing EPA per dropback over 1. Right there. Finishing as the only qualifying quarterback in the entire NFL with a deep passing EPA per dropback over 1. The only one. If not for the spectacular year of the top quarterback on the list, Tagovailoa would have been number 1. But second place isn't too bad either. And number 1 is Geno Smith, actually. All right, he had the same deep passer score, right? 99. He had a 13-2 touchdown interception ratio. So, I mean, like, what are we talking about here with Tua? He can't throw deep? And that's just it. We just started. We just touched the tip of the iceberg. I haven't even really started yet. Okay? So, I mean, Next Gen Stats has Tua Tagovailoa as the second best deep passer in the NFL last year. All right? But we got some jabroni on FS1 out here saying he can't throw the deep ball. All right? So I mentioned PFF. What did PFF have to say about when they ranked their deep passers? Okay? What did they have to say? And let's remember, when we look at how open Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle were as receivers on targets. Remember, Tyreek Hill finished 13th and Waddle finished 20th. They didn't even finish in the top 10 of open percentage on targets. So it's not like he's throwing to wide open guys when some were open, but not like all these deep throws are open, because again, Tyreek was 13 on open percentage on targets, and Waddle was 20th. All right, let's remember that too. So I don't want to hear no one saying, oh, just because they're open, because that ain't true. All right, now, PFF, they ranked all 32 starters by deep passing performance in 2022. All right, so everybody wants explosive plays. In the NFL, the league has known that for as far back as anybody can remember. And in today's game, the most reliable way of producing them is by throwing the ball deep. So, here is how they ranked. Geno Smith, number 1, second list in a row. All right? Number 2, Joe Burrow, climbed from 9 to 2. Tom Brady, 3. Tua, 4. So Tua's still at 4. PFF, 61 dropbacks. He had a 94.4 deep grade. They had 990 deep passing yards, 10 passing TDs deep, a 124.1. Look at these. We had the first passer rating in terms of deep ball. 4th in passing yards to them. 6th most passing deep touchdowns. His deep completion percentage, 24.5, which was second best. Tagovailoa thrived with the addition of Tyreek Hill. As Miami took advantage of his speed, Hill led the NFL in downfield targets at 38 and receiving yards at 669. Defenses have to be careful in how they defend Hill, because Jalen Waddle, in 349 deep yards, is a formidable threat as well. Tagovailoa's health will be closely monitored because he battled concussion symptoms late last season. If he can remain healthy, Miami should continue to have a strong, deep attack in 2023. Okay, so we've done next-gen stats. We've done PFF, and I think next-gen stats are far, I would take those with a far bigger grain of salt than I would with PFF. So next-gen stats, I mean, these guys are out here tracking freaking how fast people go. So now we're at 2 publications that the NFL uses. We see PFF stats go on screens. We see next-gen stats go on screens. So we got second best deep passer, fourth best deep passer. So right now, what is he at? The average is 3. I think the average would be 3 right now, wouldn't it? If you averaged it out. All right. Now, let's go even further. If everyone remembers, every year, fantastic stuff done by @Brickwall_Blitz. Every year, they do what's called the Deep Ball Project. We've looked over it every year since Tua has been in the NFL on this channel every year. And remember, he was one of the best deep ball passers by the Deep Ball Project last year. And this is the most in-depth deep ball analysis I've seen on the internet. And I've pulled a bunch of the charts from it to show you here. All right? And so let's get into it. So overall, this is overall because we're getting the specifics here. But overall, the Deep Ball Project last year had Tua Tagovailoa ranked as the 3rd best deep ball passer in terms of accuracy. All right? And this is on throws of 21 or more air yards. So this is not you throw it 10 yards and they go the rest of the way. The ball is traveling more than 21 yards in the air. Okay? More than 21 yards in the air. He was the 3rd most accurate quarterback when it came to 21 or more air yards. And you can see he had 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions as well. Look at Geno. Geno was just out of this world throwing it deep. Right? Air yards, he had 787 air yards, and he had 161 yards after the catch. And you can see Josh Allen had more yards after the catch, but only 162, 1 more yard. Kirk Cousins had 212. Russell had 220. You know what I mean? You can see like a guy like, look at, you can see some of these guys were just eating off yak last year, right? And then, you got some guys that didn't have that luxury of eating off yak. So, yeah, I mean, right then and there, right there in front of you, the 3rd best according to the Deep Ball Project. But we ain't done. On 31 to 40 yards, Tua was 4th in terms of accuracy. All throws of 31 to 40 yards. So we're getting even deeper than 21 yards now. Now I'm getting to 31 to 40 yards. He was the 4th most accurate quarterback. All right. Now, let's go. What about beyond 41 yards? Reason? Well, I know it says 6 right there. Right there, it says 6, but technically you'd be 5th because Fields and Burrow are tied at 4. So now we're talking about on throws of 41 plus yards. We're not talking about the 5th or 6th. Oh, and there's Herbert right there. And he had more attempts than Herbert. So, I mean, what are we talking about here about this guy not being accurate on deep throws? You want to go even more? Check this out. When you talk about total yards on deep throws, Tua was 7th. The 7th most deep yards. And remember, when all of you are looking at these numbers, remember, he missed 5 games. I want people to remember this. He also missed 5 games, so he'd have more deep yards than what we're seeing. He'd have more attempts. Like, what are we talking about here? And then when we go into total air yards, right? Total air yards. Again, 7th. And he missed 5 games. 7th most air yards, and he missed 5 games. What are we talking about here that Tua can't throw deep? We're talking about a guy that's top 5 in deep accuracy in so many metrics, and top 10 in deep yards and total air yards. I mean, what are we talking about here? I just don't get it. You know? I just don't get it. What are we talking about here? You know, I haven't even gone into, I mean, you know, there's other deep stats we could go into here that he's top 10 in that I haven't even mentioned. Here. From the deep ball project alone. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa was, you know, 5th in touchdowns of 21 yards or more. So he's also 5th in deep passing touchdowns. I mean, what are we talking about? This man can't throw deep. Tua was also the 3rd best deep passer throwing to his right side across his body. You have a guy, I mean, he was top 10. He was top 10 in most accurate deep passer without play action. He was 9th. I mean, he was 7th, the 7th most accurate deep passer without pressure in his face, but he was actually also the 9th most accurate deep passer with pressure in his face as well. I mean, we can go on and on. It don't matter whether the pressure's in his face or not. He's top 10 deep passer. And you got people out here trying to spin narratives that Tua can't throw deep. Tua doesn't throw deep. La, 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 la. Man, stop it. Tua's actually been, I mean, we went over the deep ball project last year as well. Tua's been one of the best deep passers in the game since he came out. I don't know what people are on right now. I don't know what people are watching. And like Jason says, and with a bad O-line. Doing all this with a bad O-line. It's not like he's got great protection and they're giving him all the time in the world. We're also talking about a guy who's putting up all these deep passer numbers with one of the fastest release times in the NFL as well. Just saying. Just saying. So, shout out to Tua, man. And, you know, it's always fun for me to come out here and kill these narratives of these, you know, these people who just clearly don't watch ball. And, by the way, shout out to Warren Sharp. Because completion percentage on passes of 20-plus yards, Tua Tagovailoa was number 2 in the NFL, 48%. Shout out to Warren Sharp even adding, getting in on the fun. Right there in front of you. But people are trying to tell me Tua can't throw it deep. Stop. Lying to these people and yourself. Can't wait to see what he does in year 2. And, you know, remember, last offseason, when he was making the deep ball project and making the top 5 in a lot of these categories, top 10 in a lot of these categories as well last year, Look at who his receivers were last year. So it don't matter whether his receivers have been jabronis or superstars. He's remained one of the best deep ball passes in the NFL. Go look at the deep ball project stuff from last year. We went over it on this channel multiple times. Anyways, let's get into Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill out here, he's saying, we've talked about this. I think, after them putting up 3,066 yards this year, only being off by more than, a little bit more than 140 yards, I think him and Waddle got a chance to break that record, even with Chosen, even with this deep receiver room, this deep running back room. I think they got a chance to break it. And Tyreek Hill, not only does he think he's going to get 2,000 yards, this man basically guarantees a Super Bowl for the Miami Dolphins.
You breaking 2,000 yards next year? Receiving?
I will break 2,000 yards next year, bro.
Y'all heard him. He just checking stuff off his bucket list.
And all I'm going to say is 2,000 yards was on my bucket list to get, bro, before I leave this league. And y'all think the cheater going to leave without doing something he promised himself he going to do as a Jet? I got y'all, baby. 2,000 yards and another Super Bowl. We getting that. Believe that. Believe that. Thank you. Thank you.
It needed to be said.
It needed to be said. Pristine Auction has given.
This man said 2,000 yards and another Super Bowl. Tyreek, listen, I'm going to tell you this. This man ain't speaking like a guy who's fearing the police and the reign of good and the brimstone and fire from Roger Goodell. This man sounds like a guy who's confident he's going to be playing every game this season. So all those fear mongers who tried to get y'all worked up, tried to get y'all, boogeymaned out, I'm just saying, it don't seem like that no more, huh? This man is confident we are going to win. I agree with you, Mr. Success. That Carton clearly thinks you just got to throw the ball deep and hard, right? Probably like how he likes it. Pause. Anyways, Tyreek Hill, that man out here guaranteeing 2K in a Super Bowl. Listen, I love you, Tyreek, but I'm gonna hold you to that. Not the 2K. You can keep your 2K. You can keep your individual accolades. I'm gonna hold you to that Super Bowl, my friend. Okay, because we spent a lot of money as a franchise to bring you over here for you to be the difference maker and to put us over the top, and you've helped that. But now it's time, with everything that's been built, now it's time to put it all together and for us to win a Super Bowl. So Tyreek Hill out here guaranteeing a Super Bowl. I love you, Reek, but I'm going to hold you to that, Reek. You best believe that. And we've been going over it basically almost, every time a Dolphin makes the list, we've been going over it. And, ESPN just came out with their top 10 offensive tackle list. And we did have a Dolphin make it. But it's going to shock you because he fell outside of the top 10. So, here you go. The NFL executives, coaches, and scouts rank the NFL's top 10 offensive tackles for 2023. And Trent Williams is still number 1 at 34. Tunsil, he is number 2, all the way up from 6 last year. Wirfs, last year was 2. This year he's 3. Man, I wanted that guy so bad in the draft. Lane Johnson, last year 7. This year 4. Jordan Mailata, honorable mention last year. Now he's 5. Penei Sewell, honorable mention last year. Now he's 6. Another guy everyone knows I wanted. Andrew Thomas, last year unranked. Now he's 7. Rashawn Slater was ranked 4th and then dropped to 8th this year. Christian Darrisaw was unranked and now he's 9th. And Colton Miller was an honorable mention last year. Now he's 10. While Ryan Ramczyk comes in at 11. And Terron Armstead, honorable mention, posted a career best 75.1 run block win rate last season. A year or two ago, he was definitely in the elite. a veteran and AFC scout said. But the injuries he's had over the course of his career, he's still tough as nails, but injuries have showed up on him with his anchor and bend. So Terron Armstead, who was in the top 10 on this list last year, if you remember when we did it, this year he has slid down to the honorable mentions. I got to ask a question in the chat. Are they overlooking Terron Armstead, or are they right? Have the injuries taken the toll and added up? I want to know what y'all think on this. I want to know, are they overlooking our boy? Let me know. Because, I think they are a little bit. I think they're looking up on, I think they're overlooking him a little bit. If this man stays healthy this year, he'll get right back into that top 10. Right? He's gonna get right back into that top 10. He just needs to stay healthy this year and have a Terron Armstead type of year. Because, the guy when he plays is elite. The guy's, there's not even a question. So, man, I'm hoping everything, stays intact for Terron Armstead to get back his spot this year, because he's been overlooked in my the way I see it. Continuing on here, we did our training camp battles, and one of the battles I had was Devin A-Chain versus the veteran Dolphin running backs. Well, oddly enough, Bleacher Report, they put out an article looking at, 9 NFL training camp battles that people should keep an eye on. And for the Dolphins, they said the Miami Dolphins running back battle. They said the candidates are Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, and Devon A-Chain. They said most of training camp battles at running back across the league probably won't have a clear winner. The days of one back receiving 350-plus touches and the others fighting for scraps are largely gone. Today's NFL is all about committee attacks, and right now there isn't a muddier one than the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins were 25th in the league in rushing last year and didn't have a player who had 200 carries. But Miami waited until the third round of the draft to bolster its backfield with the undersized Devon A-Chain, who is a more gadget player than three-down back. See, this man's speaking in absolutes. Don't discount Devon A-Chain, man. Okay, he's got what it takes to be a three-down back. Speaking to reporters at OTAs, Tyreek Hill said that he expects the 5'9", 100. They don't have his weight right. He's up to like 195 now. 188-pounder to make an immediate impact for Miami. Man, he's another special player that we added this year, Hill said. I'm very excited to see what he brings to this offense. So far, he's been looking really good with his speed and the way he's able to catch the ball at the backfield. So far, I'm very impressed. So this, from a fantasy draft standpoint, A-Chain has been preferred target for most of fantasy managers, but Raheem Mostert, who led in rushing last season and averaged over 5 yards per carry, he's getting overlooked by fantasy managers. And it says, if the Dolphins don't add a player like Cook, there's likely going to need to be an injury or A-Chain will have to amazing camp. Otherwise, we're headed to a full-blown committee in Miami. And, they think that from a fantasy standpoint, this is basically a running back room to stay away from because it might be shared. And I'll say this from a fantasy standpoint. This is a long-term investment. Like, you're waiting until midway through the season for someone to run away with this. Like, I wouldn't draft a Dolphin running back in fantasy very high unless, obviously, who comes here. But at the same time, this, if we don't get Dalvin Cook, this could be very much more committee than people think it would be with Dalvin Cook. So, interesting thing to keep an eye on. Let's go over to Christian Wilkins here, because Christian Wilkins was at Emmanuel Ogba's camp, and he was asked about the extension. And listen to what he said about Miami.
Kids, and you coach them hard, but that's what they need.
Hey, there's no such thing as hard coaching. It's just coaching. But yeah, no, that's absolutely what they need. And it's good because I just got a passion for this game, and I got a passion for trying to do things right and respecting the game. So that's what I'm trying to teach these kids. That's how I approach the game. That's how I can try to approach life. So, anything they can take from me, even if it's just one kid that takes something from me today, I did my job.
And to be here for Emmanuel, a guy that this is where his roots are. This is
Absolutely.
a special place for him.
Yeah, I know what this city means to Agba. The passion he has for giving back to the youth, and that's the reason why I'm here is because I support him, his vision. He's a great teammate of mine, and I know what it means to him. So it means a lot for me to be out here and support him.
Christian, this could be a special season for the Dolphins. You think about a lot of the pieces that people look at to be a championship caliber team. Do you feel like you have those?
Absolutely. We got a chance to be a really good team, and it's as good as we want to be. And it's we got all the right pieces like you're saying. We're just gonna have to put in that work each and every day to get where we want to go ultimately.
You have the quarterback that makes it a lot easier.
Yes.
How do you feel about Tua?
No, Tua's a great player, great teammate, and he does a great job leading us.
You think about the defense now that you have Emmanuel healthy, all the guys that you have coming back. What do you think about the defense, especially with Vic Fangio as the architect?
Yeah, it's all there. We got everything we need. Like I'm saying, we're just gonna have to put in that work and just build as a unit each and every day, and see what happens as we go.
Having Emmanuel back, because 2021 was a special year for him.
Yeah.
What does that do? What does that give the defense?
I mean, Agba's talent, his ability, his hard work, that all speaks for itself. He's a great player, great teammate, and he's awesome to have around, and I know he's going to give it his all each and every day on the field, so it's going to be good to have him back and have him healthy.
Just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they've asked you a few times this offseason, things are going well with you and the Dolphins, you guys are continuing to be in talks and things like that, and your agent handles that?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yep, and kind of obvious question, but would you love to be a Dolphin for a very long time?
Miami's home, and that's where I got drafted, that's where I love, so that's where I want to be.
Hopefully they work something out.
Yeah.
All right.
So Wilkins says Miami is home. This is where he loves. This is where he wants to be. And I think we all hope that he remains here. I think we all hope he stays a part of this team. It's going to come down to really, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to money. You know what I mean? And we see all these, lists voted on by executive scouts and coaches, or we see lists made by jabronis in their basement who work for CBS, wherever the case may be. They're all just making him an honorable mention. You got to ask yourself, do the Dolphins see him like that? Do they see him as as a cusp top 10 guy and not a solidified top 10 guy? So, very interesting. Very interesting to see how that would go. For me, if we could get him done for 16 to 18 million, jump all over it. If it's going to cost more than that, you gotta, listen, I love Christian Wilkins as much as the next person. But when we start talking 22 million a year, over 20 million a year, I take a pause. I really do. And, it's nothing personal with the player. It's literally just the business side of it. We got a big-time extensions coming down the pipeline. And the realistic thing people need to realize is you can't sign anyone. Everyone. So you're going to have to make those tough decisions, and you're going to lose players you like. Ask yourself, if Phillips has the season we're expecting to have under Fangio and continues to develop the way we think he's going to develop in the way that clearly NFL minds and people around the NFL think he's going to, who would you rather allocate that $22.5 million to? Christian Wilkins right now, or Jalen Phillips a couple years down the line when he's a premier top 5 pass rusher? Pretty easy answer, no? It's Phillips. I keep telling everyone, defensive tackles, people need to realize this. Interior defensive linemen in Fangio's scheme, edge players, second-level players, linebackers, and secondary players take precedence over interior defensive linemen in Fangio's scheme. Sure, having guys that can play a gap and a half on the inside and be effective, that's needed. But I always go back to this. Look at Draymond Jones. Fangio drafted him. Did he get re-upped in Denver? We're going to have to extend Phillips, Javon Holland, Tua Tagovailoa, and Jalen Waddle over the next 2 years. I don't know what to tell you. Can you really give up 10% of your cap, a little over 10% of your cap, to a defensive tackle? Put it in that way. Put it in that sense. Quarterbacks make about 20% of your cap. You want to pay a defensive tackle 10% of your cap when we're paying Tyreek Hill around, 10% of more than 10% of our cap right now? I mean, if we're talking $22 million, that's only about $8 million off from the $30 million Tyreek maxes out on here. Now he gets up to $50 million in a couple of years, but he probably won't be here for that. But when you start putting that into percent, the pass rush is not where it needs to be. Now, if he goes out and has 7.5, 8, 9 sacks this year, hey, have the conversation. But all the guys you are seeing getting paid offer more from a pass rush standpoint on the interior than Christian Wilkins does. Listen, Baker, Wilson, and Ogba, we're $31 million over the cap next year. Baker, Wilson, and Ogba, that gets you to around your $31 million. And that puts you right at the cap. Shout out to Joe for the $20 super sticker. I appreciate it. So, listen, I want Christian Wilkins to remain a Miami Dolphin, but y'all are crazy if you're okay with $22.5 million. I'm sorry. I'll be the first one to tell you y'all are crazy. And clearly the Dolphins do not share that same standpoint, or he'd be re-upped at that price. Y'all are crazy. I've told you where this should be at. 4 years, $80 million, 60 of that guaranteed, $15 million a year guaranteed. That's where I'd be at. That's fair. Incentives to get that extra $20 million. If you become the pass rusher, you will get those incentives and get up to that $20 million a year. $15 million a year with incentives to get you up to $20 million a year over 4 years. That's fair for me. And that's, that's because, I think he's a 16. Last year, you could have signed him for $14, $15 million. I think he's a $16, $18 million player right now. And that's meeting you halfway. That's where I'm at. That's what I would say. I've said this before. I'll say it again. $60 million guaranteed over 4 years, $80 million contract. Boom. Take it or leave it, bud. I'm not getting into no 4-year, $90 million contract. Are you crazy with me right now? Don't even come at me with 4-year, $100 million, because I'll show you the door and ask what comp pick's coming back next year immediately. I've said this before. I'll say it again. 4 years, $80 million, 60 of it guaranteed. Come on. Anyone wants to say that he deserves more than that? We got issues. All right. So I'll pay you your $15 million off of what you are as a pass disruptor and what you do in the run game. But if you become that pass rusher, you can hit those incentives and get up to your $20 million a year. That's where I'd be. That's where I'd be. Speaking of money, and this should put it into perspective of how easy it's not going to be over the next 2 years. Look at the bargains we have on this roster right now. Shout out to Omar Kelly. All right. And he says, you ever go to a store and find an item you want to clearance or hit a buy one, get one free special? The elation you feel from taking advantage of a bargain, saving money is real. Same applies for NFL teams when they hit on draft picks who become standouts, if not stars, at a bargains rate, especially when they are struggling to manage the salary cap. Those are the players that help make your roster affordable, and the Miami Dolphins have quite a few, which helps balance out the 10 big-ticket players, which account for 56% of the cap this season. So, here are the bargain players. Right now, Tua Tagovailoa, $4.73 million. Tagovailoa will make $3.7 million from a roster bonus and $1 million in base salary for the 2023 season. They've already triggered his fifth-year option for 2024, which guarantees him $23.1 million in base salary. But talks are ongoing regarding a multi-year extension. There you go. Talks are ongoing regarding a multi-year extension still. General manager Chris Greer claims he hasn't ruled it out, and it might be one value used to help balance the books next offseason. Jalen Waddle only makes $3.12 million right now. A guy who put up over 1,300 yards last year, 1,356 yards and 7 touchdowns, makes $3.12 million. Waddle, who has contributed 2,371 receiving yards and 14 touchdowns on 179 receptions the past 2 seasons, will receive a $2.18 million roster bonus and earn $940,000 base salary this season as part of his 4-year, $27 million deal he signed as a 6th overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. Next season, when Waddle is due $8.6 million, the Dolphins will either sign him to an extension or trigger his 5th-year option, which is projected to pay him $14.12 million for the 2025 season. But don't expect Waddle to continue being a bargain, especially if he becomes a Pro Bowler in 2023. Robert Hunt, other than Connor Williams and Terron Armstead, our most stable guy on the O-line. He only makes $2.99 million. Started 45 of the 50 games he's played the last 3 seasons. Will earn $2.99 million this season in the final year of his 4-year, $9.3 million deal he signed as a 3rd-round pick in 2020. He got that wrong. He was a 2nd-round pick, Robert Hunt. His camp's working on a contract extension with Miami, and any deal agreed upon will likely double, if not triple, his pay for this season. So he says his camp's working on a contract extension. I have not heard anything like that, but he says double his pay. So $6 million a year, $6 to $9 million a year is what he's expecting his new deal to be. So if Hunt is extended, expect his new deal to deplete the Dolphins' $13.6 million in cap space. Raheem Mostert, he accounted for 1,093 rushing yards, and he was given $1.3 million signing bonus to re-sign this offseason. 31-year-old will make $1.16 in base salary because of the 2-year, $6.5 million deal he recently signed. He'll earn another $290,000 in per game roster bonus and $100,000 from his workout bonus. Jalen Phillips is only costing $1.93 million. He has recorded 15.5 sacks in his first 2 seasons, and he'll earn $1.93 million in base salary as part of the 4-year, $14 million deal he signed as the 18th pick in the 2021 draft. He'll make $2.57 million in 2024. Miami will likely opt into his 5th-year option, which would commit to paying the pass rusher $13.2 million for 2025, and expecting to pursue a multi-year extension this offseason that puts him in the Bradley Chubb neighborhood salary-wise. Nick Needham only costs $1.82 million, coming off his Achilles injury. He re-signed on a one-year deal with $1.6 million with a $152,500 signing bonus. Javon Holland, you saw him ranked number 5 by executives, coaches, and scouts. He's only costing us $1.45 million. And he's got 1 more year left, which pays him $1.84 million. And then he has got to be re-signed. He's a top priority. And then Raekwon Davis, $1.38 million. Robbie Chosen, $1.3 million. Kader Kohu, $870,000. I mean, look at this. Robbie Chosen, let's count him as wide receiver 3, so we won't count him as a starter. But Kohu, Raekwon, Holland, Phillips, Mostert right now, right? Mostert right now. I guess you could count Mostert right now. Hunt, Waddle. 8 of these 10 are starters. And look at the bargain they are at. 8 of our 10 starters are on big-time bargain deals. That matters. Because another 10 of our guys take up 56% of the cap space, like you mentioned. That's Tyreek Hill, Chubb, Xavier Howard, Armstead, Ogba, Wilkins, Ramsey, Baker, Cedric Wilson, Connor Williams. So, it's really smart to off-balance your big-ticket items with players that are a bargain. But the problem is, we go over those names. How long are those players going to be bargains for? That's what you got to ask yourself, because there's a lot of players that we named on that list where their money is coming up very soon within the next 2 years. So, and guys we named on the list are core players moving forward for this team. So, no joke, right? None whatsoever. So, anyways, guys, please do me the favor. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. I appreciate all y'all for coming through on this Saturday stream. Please do me the favor. I don't think it's basically win now or continue to be mediocre. I think it's win now or you got to retool. You're going to have to retool. It's coming up. This is why hitting on draft picks is so important. Because, not only do you get bargain players like we named, but also you can reload your roster. We've talked about this when teams get, a year or two ahead of reloading in positions that they know are coming down the pipeline with current players that they might not be able to afford. That's what winners do. And that's what we got to start doing more of. We got to be drafting guys. Cam Smith, I feel, is the perfect example. They did that. They saw, hey, X might not be here next year, right? Make the Cam Smith move. That's a good move for that. You're looking ahead. You're having foresight. You need that. Anyways, let's keep it rolling. I will see all of y'all. I'll be back on Monday unless something breaks tomorrow. I appreciate all of y'all for coming through and supporting the channel. Smash that like button on the way out. As always, fins up all day, every day. See y'all in the next one, people.